Hey everybody, this is Bale, and I wanted to talk to you guys about something that's been happening in Dead by Daylight for a few weeks now that I think I need to discuss with people because I don't think enough people in the community are talking about it. And I'll just show you right now what this thing is that's really been annoying me for the past few weeks.
Oh, hi.
Help me.
Would you like a flashbang?
Yes.
Okay, he quit. Cool.
So, to me, it's pretty obvious up to this point why people keep disconnecting from matches when they're kind of losing over and over again. It's because the DC penalty got turned off. For those of you who don't know, the DC penalty was a system that made it so if you disconnected from a match prematurely, i.e. you didn't kill yourself on hook or end the match in a normal way, you got a penalty to how long you had to stay between matches. At first it would be 5 minutes before you could re-queue, then I think it was something around like 30 minutes, and then after that you were banned for a whole day or something. I don't know. I was never someone who would disconnect from matches very often, so I only ever got the 5-minute ban at most. So because people are disconnecting more from matches, I've been noticing that the gameplay as a whole for this game has been going down really downhill in quality. Whenever I play a match, and every other match I play, there's always somebody that disconnects because they're having a bad time. So whenever I log into a match, there always seems to be like a 50% chance that someone's going to disconnect. Maybe it'll be the survivor, maybe it'll be the killer, who knows. But when either person, it could be a survivor, it could be a killer, when either of them disconnects from the match prematurely, it really makes the game unfun for the rest of the players. Because let's say a survivor who doesn't like the killer that they have to play against disconnects from a match early. Let's say they load in and they're like, oh my god, it's a Deathslinger, oh my god, it's a Spirit, somebody that's not very fun to play against. So they just disconnect because they know that they can just move on to the next match. Well, for the people who actually want to try and play the game, they're just going to have a really hard time because the 3 survivors that are left are stuck trying to do 3 generators, which is going to be impossible against a semi-competent killer. Now, it's even worse on the killer side when a killer decides to disconnect because, well, then the match just ends. Nobody gets any meaningful blood points because if the killer disconnects in like the first 3 minutes of the match, all the survivors get booted out of the match and they get probably like 10,000 blood points at most. Now, this is all stemming from the fact that Behavior decided to turn off the DC penalty for some reason, and I don't think it should have been turned off in my opinion. I remember when they first integrated the system of being timed out of the game for a few minutes after disconnecting, I thought it was a little unfair to people who had bad internet connection and would occasionally lose connection, and it was just like honest mistakes like that. But the problem is, now that people feel like there's no way that they'll be punished for leaving the match early, they're doing it in droves. Like, I swear, 50% of my matches I play, somebody disconnects. It could be a survivor and it could be a killer. It seems to be a little bit of both most of the time. And it just really annoys me, and I'm wondering, is anybody else having this problem? Because when I'm like seeing other people in the post-game lobby, whether it's a killer or a survivor, and I talk to them, I'm like, yeah, the disconnect penalty has been turned off, so people can just DC whenever they want. And pretty much everybody who I talk to in post-game lobbies, they say, oh yeah, that's really sucks. They should probably turn that back on because it really makes the game unfun for both sides. And I haven't even been able to record videos pretty much these past few weeks, like not as effectively. I've had to scrap multiple video attempts I've been trying to do because I'll log into a game, I'm like, I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to try to make this thing my objective for the video. But then somebody is like upset that they have to play against a Spirit, or somebody's upset that they're getting looped for 2 minutes, and they quit because they, I don't know, don't have the constitution for it. So I'm just kind of having a bit of trouble playing DBD right now, like mentally. Every time I log into a match and I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, oh my god, who's going to disconnect now? Who's going to get down after like 10 seconds of being found and get upset and disconnect? And honestly, it's really ruining my enjoyment for the game right now. And I don't really know Well, they just need to turn back on the DC penalty. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with ideas for how they can fix this. They just need to turn back on the DC penalty. I feel like that would really fix the problem, you know? And I don't really get why people are disconnecting in the first place. Like, was the 5-minute DC penalty really that big of a crutch for people who wanted to keep playing the game after leaving a game? You know what I mean? Like, when somebody disconnects from a game now, they just do it because they know that they can do it without any repercussions. But before that, there was a 5-minute penalty, and I guess that was enough to make it so people weren't willing to disconnect all the time. Like, I still had, like, 1 out of every 20-ish matches where somebody would disconnect. Sometimes they would do it, like, after they got down, or sometimes they just do it halfway through a match because they just maybe had to go do something else. And I just don't really see why the sudden lack of 5-minute DC penalties would suddenly make it so people were more likely to disconnect. Now, I know some people are going to say, like, oh, we shouldn't turn on the DC penalty again because there are people who might have bad connection or might have to just leave and go do something else. Well, like I said earlier, I probably said this like 5 times now in this video, but if you disconnect from a match, you only get 5 minutes being timed out. You can literally go do whatever that other thing is you need to do, and then by the time you get back, you'll probably not be suspended from the game anymore. So I don't think reinstating the DC penalty in that regard will cause any problems, but I don't know, it's so whack to me that not more people are talking about this problem. Like the fact that people just leave games and it completely screws over both sides because the killer, if a survivor DCs on the killer just gets an easy match and they have to farm the last 3 survivors to get at least a slightly meaningful amount of blood points. And then on the other side, it makes it so survivors, they're pretty much going to lose because if there's 5 generators left that the survivors have to do and there's only 3 of them, the killer would have to throw the game in order for them to win at that point. And then if a killer, like I said earlier, if a killer disconnects, then that's it. The survivors just have to move on to the next match and not get any blood points. The match ended up being a total waste of time. So I'm just making this video because I'm wondering if anybody else is kind of having this same problem I'm having with DBD right now. Are you guys also witnessing a significantly more disconnects now that this DC penalty has been turned off? And is it annoying you to the point where you're thinking they need to turn it back on? So let me know in the comments if you think that they need to turn on the DC penalty again, or if you have some reasoning for why you think that it shouldn't be turned back on. So I think that's going to be the end of this video. I just kind of wanted to sit here and rant and complain a little bit. I really don't think that Behavior made the right decision turning off the DC penalty, and I think that they should at least reinstate some version of it at some point so people don't feel like they can just leave matches and screw over their teammates whenever they want to. So that's going to be the end of this video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.